Do you have terrible fear that stops you from doing something you really want to do? It's just paralysing you from going forward. Well, today I'm going to give you some practical tips you can use to overcome fear and become more confident going towards where you want to get to. Welcome back to my channel, The Self-Esteem and Confidence Mindset, with me, Jonny Pardoe, here to help you boost your self-esteem and confidence. If you want a range of videos on self-esteem and confidence, then be sure to subscribe to my channel or hit the bell to be notified every time I release a new video every Tuesday and Thursday. So fear is not just something that I've experienced, but I have experienced it. Any human being has experienced fear. I've experienced being paralysed from going forward and making friends, talking to people, being so scared of talking to new people, whether that was in school, whether that was in networking situations in my earlier 20s when I was less confident, whether it was going on dates, whether it was asking that pretty girl at the bar, just even talking to her, whether that was speaking up in a meeting. I was paralysed with fear. And I know it's something that other people struggle with because my friends have said it, people I'm close to have said it, and people who I coach, because I'm a confidence coach, people come to me with specific challenges around fear and improving their confidence. I know there are people that really want to do something and they just don't know how to because they've got this fear and they don't know how to move forward. So we always look at how they can move forward with these small actionable steps to go forward. Before I go into these steps, I wanted to share something I've read from a recent book, The Confidence Gap by Dr. Russ Harris, that I've reread recently. And it's the fact that, there's two things. It's the fact that confident people do not have an absence of fear. Confident people do feel fear. They've just been able to move through it. And when they move through fear, they get more confident as a result. Everyone gets fear. I want you to understand that. Everybody has fear. Now, you might see people, wow, that person's so charismatic. They're so calm. People say to me, how are you so calm and charismatic sometimes? And other people say, oh, your videos could improve. People are entitled to their own opinion. I'm not going to stop making them on my podcast because it helps a lot of people. But anyway, off me for a minute. But I was at a stage, sort of on me for a minute, but I was in a stage where people thought, wow, you appear, quite confident in front of people. I'm like, I didn't always feel like that. And I don't always. Before I go out and do a speech in front of Toastmasters, I feel a bit nervous. And actually, as I've done it more and more, my nerves reduce and it's excitement. It's always been excitement anyway. But I had to work through it and I had to take small steps. I used to be terrified of speaking up in meetings, but by taking small actions, just speaking to small groups of people and building it up, I've become more confident. And I know there's famous people who have done that as well. They've just grown their confidence every little bit. Look at Gary Vee. He is one of the most charismatic people you will see on the stage. But if he shared, or I don't know if it's him or someone else, shared his first video on YouTube and he's a little bit nervous and you don't recognise him, but he's taken steps to build himself as a person. And that's what confidence is. It's moving through fear. And if something's too big a gap, we break it down even smaller. So first of all, just recognise confident people don't have an absence of fear. They will always feel it, but they've just got a different relationship. And that's the second thing. Confident people have transformed their relationship with fear. They recognise it's a perfectly normal reaction, but they think of it as excitement and move forward with it. So I wanted to share that before I go into the tips. So here are the tips on how you can overcome fear and become a bit more confident. My first tip is to think about what will happen if you do go through the fear, if you start moving towards something you really want to do. So for example, if you wanted to lead a dance class, for example, but you're terrified of making a mistake or teaching the wrong thing to people, or just making a small action that's wrong in the class, or what people will think. That might be your fear. But imagine if you did lead a class and it went really, really well, and then you started doing more classes and it became your living and you really, really enjoyed it. How would that make you feel? Pretty amazing, I'd imagine. So think about what you'll get if you do move through that fear, even just those little steps, bit by bit. And then the second part to this first point is that's logical, okay? But then emotionally, the fear might come in and block you. However, think about so you've got two drivers here. What's going to happen if you do not move through that fear? You perhaps might be in a job which you don't enjoy. You're just unhappy in life. If you don't overcome fear, what's going to happen? Could you get to your life a decade later and think, oh, I've really wasted this. I've just not done anything. Because you've let the fear get too much, and then suddenly you're miserable, you're unhappy, maybe you're unmarried, or maybe you're in a miserable relationship, maybe you're just really unhappy. Think about what's going to happen if you don't move through fear. And then what you've got the joy of what's really going to happen. So that's the pleasure of what you could get if you keep taking action. And then you've got the disappointment, what's going to happen if you don't do it. And you've got two sort of different emotional directions driving together to counter that fear. And then what I want you to do is think about putting that on your wall every single day and looking at it. Tip number 2, what would a role model say? So you may have a role model, you may not. If you don't, think about someone you really admire, their confidence, just doing something, they get things done. Think about how they'd respond to the situation you're going through. So for me, I've shared this before, but I'm a big fan of Harvey Specter of Suits, the series on Netflix with the lawyers, where he's one of the most charismatic people I've ever seen on TV. Just goes into courtrooms, really pressurized situations, but he's as cool as a cucumber, gets through it. Even though he probably wasn't at one point. Obviously, it's a fictional story. But I think, what would Harvey do in this when I'm in a difficult situation of, I need to do this, it's going to be a challenging one. That's what I used to do. I used to think, what would Harvey do? And you don't, remember, be yourself, but think about what a really confident person would do in that situation. And then start to apply that action into your own life. My next tip is think about examples of when you have overcome fear. Because our brain will focus on the negatives, and that's what it does naturally. But unless you train it. So think about when you have overcome something that was fearful and you really didn't want to do, but you did it anyway. And start to list them out and then keep reminding yourself of those, because it shows evidence you're capable of that. And then your brain will start to remember it for enough repetition if you keep doing it, and it'll focus on the courage you actually have. My question for you today is actually leading from that. What examples have you got in your life where you had a situation which was quite scary for you, but you did it and you overcame a fear? Just leave yours in the comments below. And my final point, tip number 4, is think about, it's kind of what I've been touching on in some of the other points, but think about little small steps you can do to get results. And emphasis on the word small. We're not thinking about massive leaps you need to do. We're thinking about small little actions. So if it's leading a dance class, going back to the example, I don't know why that's come out as an example today. I've never been a dancer personally, even though it would be fun, but I just opted for other things in my life. However, think about, maybe you could do like practicing learning, doing a bit of a course each day. Maybe you could practice some dance routines yourself. Maybe you could teach one person. And then that starts to build a little bit of confidence. And when you start to do little actions, you'll start to get results. And when you get results, you'll build more confidence. So think about small little steps you can do to build up that confidence and overcome that fear. Okay, so those are my tips on overcoming fear today. There's a little bit of reminding yourself of what you've done, role modelling yourself, but you actually have to take the action ultimately to overcome the fear. Confident people, as I said, and once again a reminder, don't have an absence of fear. They've just transformed their relationship with fear. I can't emphasize that enough. If you've got a mindset at the moment of thinking some people just don't have fears, then that's probably half the battle. You need to realize everyone has fears at some point, but we can break them down even smaller if they're too big, and then just build up momentum from there. If you've enjoyed today's video, but you perhaps want a little bit more on improving your confidence, or perhaps you want to boost your self-esteem, then check out my latest book, The Self-Esteem and Confidence Mindset. It's available on Amazon in both paperback and Kindle. I'll leave the links in the description as well. Thank you very much for watching today. Remember, never skip Self-Esteem Day. I appreciate you, and I will catch you in the next video.